In order to use Spline, you should first sign in, and to do that, we go to spline.design. I will provide a link in the description below. And here, we just continue by clicking this Get Started button right here. You should then fill out the form and sign into the app. And for this tutorial, I will be using the web browser version of Spline, but as you can see, there are also desktop apps available for Mac and for Windows. I believe regardless of the version you choose, there is no difference in functionality. Let's go to the browser version. And what you see on the screen right now is the main menu. And I'm currently on the Home tab. And here you can find my recent projects, tutorials, and some examples from the library. So let's take a closer look at the menu on the left side. And let's go to my Files tab. On this tab, you can find your recent projects, and I already have files saved here. But if you want, for example, to create a new file, you can do it by using this blue button in the upper right corner. We will come back to this button later. What I want to mention is that Spline is a collaborative app, which means you can work together with your team on a project. That's why we have this Share With Me tab. And here you can view the projects that have been shared with you. And currently, we don't have any. And let's go further. And there is a new tab which was added recently, and it is Community tab, where you can share your works or explore other projects. Tutorials tab. I think it's a very valuable resource as it contains lots of tutorials that were created and provided by the Spline team. Let's go further to the Library tab, and Library tab contains many sample 3D scenes. You can see it here, scenes or objects, yeah, that you can explore and use. And this tab actually gives you a great idea of the type of work you can create with Spline. I believe that some of these were not actually modeled inside the app, but the cool thing about Spline is that you can import objects from other 3D apps and use Spline to texture and create animations. Let's go further to the Inbox tab, and Inbox tab shows any notification you may receive. And just below that, you can create a new team using this button right here. And at the bottom is the Archive tab, and it stores any deleted projects. And from here, you can restore a project or delete permanently. Okay, the Updates tab, and the Updates tab displays any updates, bug fixes, or developments that have been made to the app. And lastly, we have Help and Feedback tab, which contains useful links and Spline documentations, and it also, some examples of tutorials, and it also allows you to keep track of all important shortcuts. But no worries, I will put a list of main shortcuts in the materials for this lesson. Okay, let's create a new file, and we go to the Home tab, and we are going to use this blue button in the upper right corner, New File. And let's wait a little. And in the center of the scene, we see a window with some 3D objects that you can inspect. But if we click on an empty space in the scene, it disappears, and now we see that the layout of the program is pretty simple. On the left side, we have our object manager, or better to say, outliner, and we can select objects from here and manipulate them. For example, we can turn the visibility on and off, and also lock the object that it's not possible to select it in the scene. Okay. And on the top, we have the toolbar where we can see a list of different types of objects that we can create. And from here, we can add shapes. We can also export scene, and we can go into playback mode. But no worries, we will come back to this toolbar later. And on the right, we have global settings. We can change background color from here. We can, for example, add fog to our scene, or we can create a material asset, and much more. But let's start with a simple action, and let's change, for example, the background color of the scene. I don't know. Let's do something bluish, but not too bright. Okay, something like that. So by default, we have this rectangle in the scene, and I'm going to choose it and delete. Just press delete button. Oops, I deleted also the light. I didn't want to do that. I just want to delete this rectangle. Delete. And I also don't want helpers or any grids to be seen, it to be visible in the scene. So I'm going here, and I just toggle the visibility of helpers like so, and also grids like so. And if we click on the plus sign here, we can see a range of different shapes we can create, both 2D and 3D shapes. And also null object, which is called group right here, and camera, and different types of light. So let's create an object, and I'm going to choose a cube. And we can add a cube to our scene by either just clicking, like so. Let's delete it. And go to the plus sign button. Again, choose cube. And we can, just clicking, or we can click and drag, like so. And if I hold Shift key down, I'm going to scale this object proportionally. Or if I hold Shift and Alt keys down, I can click and drag and scale this out from the axis center of our object. So I do it with a Shift. Okay, we can see some arrows and arches right now, and we can use them to move or rotate the object. Okay, like so, to move or rotate the object, like so, yeah. And then we have these little circles that will constrain movement to a plane. Okay. And also you see we have these little round marks here, here, and here that will allow us to scale our cube. And if I hold Shift, I can scale the cube proportionally. Again, Shift proportionally or just according to axis. Like so. And I hope you noticed when we choose an axis or an arch or a mark, it turns yellow. So we always see what we choose. And these outer cube corners allow us to change the overall size and scale our cube shape as well. And also we can hold Shift button and we can do it proportionally. We can also position and scale and rotate our object on axis on X, Y, and Z axis from here, from the properties and from side menu. And we can actually type a value right here, for example, I don't know, 10, yeah. Or we can just drag with a mouse like so. You can reset the transformation of your object by clicking on the object with right mouse button and choose what to reset. If you want to reset scale, position, rotation, or you can reset all transformation. We will come back to the right mouse menu later. So with the cube selected, we can go over to the shape properties, shape section right here, and we can see what we have here. We can change corners of the cube and their roundness, like so. Let me demonstrate, like, let it make it closer. So, and so. I believe the default values were 8 and 8. And what is interesting that each shape has its unique settings. And it means that these parameters here are dependent on the object. And so if I go and grab a cylinder, for example, here, I'm just going to click and drag to create a cylinder and rotate it a little. You can see that the shapes parameters are changed. Now we have a hollow parameter, which is specific for the cylinder. So we can easily make a tube like so. We can also add a slice by changing angle parameter, like so. Okay. And we can also control how much rounding there is on the shape as well. So okay. And let's add another shape. Yeah, another shape, and let's create a 2D shape, for example. And let's choose, I don't know, triangle or pentagon. Yeah, let's choose a pentagon. Just click and drag. And as you can see, it's a flat object, but you can add a third dimension to it by using this new parameter, which is called extrusion. And also bevel the corners a little bit. And as you can see, now it's a 3D object. And another way, another way to create a 2D object is to choose this pen tool, which is actually called a vector tool. Let's choose it and just draw an object from scratch, like so. And you see that the tool menu has been changed now because we are in an edit mode. And we can edit our shape after drawing using these little dots. Just move them. And if you want, for example, to make some of these corners round, you can use this bend tool right here, bend tool, like so. Just click and drag and then adjust the handles, like so. If you want to get your sharp corner back, you just need to move the dot like so, and you've got your sharp corner. Yeah, and you've got your sharp corner back. I'm going to exit an edit mode by double click on the empty space in the scene, double click. And again, I can extrude the object, extrude, and also I can add a little bit of bevel. Now let's learn how to navigate in our scene. So to be able to orbit around your scene, you're going to hold Alt key down and dragging with your mouse. Just Alt and drag. If you hold down space bar and dragging with your mouse, space and drag, that's going to allow you to pan. And if you have a mouse scroll wheel, you can press and drag with your mouse scroll wheel to move like this. And you can also scroll it up and down. That is your zoom in and zoom out. You can also use Control and plus and minus keys to zoom in or zoom out as well. And finally, down here, you can select orthographic view or perspective view. Orthographic perspective. Okay. And we also have isometric view. Yep. And these little dots, we can choose, they can help us to choose whether we want to look at the thing from right, from front, from above. And if you ever happen to have all your objects fly off your scene, you can always reset your camera by clicking right here, reset. Again, fly off your screen. You can also just simply right click in your view and choose reset your camera, like so. And you see that we are now back to our default view. Let's create a few objects. For example, let it be a cube, click and drag with Shift, and a sphere, click and drag with Shift. And let's talk about hierarchy. On the left, you can see the object manager or outliner where we can select an object, cube or sphere, and then manipulate them. We can simply drag and drop objects and change their position. We can toggle the visibility like so, or lock an object so that we won't be able to select or move it in the scene. Also, if I move, for example, the cube on another object, in our case on sphere, it becomes a child object. So cube is a child object, and the sphere is the parent object. And this means that you can apply to the parent and this means that what you apply to the parent object also applies to the child object. You see, I selected sphere, but I can move both objects in the scene. I can also scale or rotate, or I can do whatever I want. Just Control Z to reset the transformation. And if you want to bring your child object back to the hierarchy, just select it and move it from the parent, like so. You can also group objects together. Let's select the cube and the sphere, and then click with the right mouse button and choose Group Selection. They are now grouped together. This means that you can make changes together. You can choose Group, and again, you can make changes together. You can move, rotate, or scale together. We can ungroup the object again by right-clicking on the group and select Ungroup Selection. And you see that this group is now an empty object. Yeah, it's an empty object. And you can select it and simply delete. Okay. There is another way to group objects. We can create an empty group at first. So let's go to the toolbar, to this plus sign button, and let's choose group, the null object. And you see, we can create it. We created an empty group, and it is automatically created in the center of coordinates. And to demonstrate it, I want my grid plane back. So I choose the group, and you see that it is created in the center of coordinates. We can move it. Yeah, we can move it, or we can leave it as it is. I don't need floor anymore. Okay. And then we can simply choose our object, our cube and our sphere, and bring them on top of a group. And now we have a new group, like so. We can manipulate, and actually that is it. Let's ungroup selection, and we can delete the group. And now let's talk about the cloner component, and honestly, I only need the cube for this purpose, so I also can delete this sphere. Let's select the cube. Okay, and the cloner component is on the bottom of the right sidebar, right here. Let's turn it on. And the cloner enables you to duplicate and arrange objects. And there are different types of cloning. And each type allows to generate a different pattern. And let's check what properties we have here. So let's select radial, which is a circular like this. We can choose linear, which will be basically a straightforward line. We can choose grid, which is simply a grid, and then finally we've got an object type, and we will talk about the object type later in details. So let's go back to the radial type. And here we have some properties, and for example, we can decide on show or hide the base component. Let's hide it, and let's show it again. We can increase or decrease the count of cloners, and we can decide on a radius. We can even type a value here. And and actually the radius, it's a distance between the cloner and the main object, right? Or like so. Okay, and also we can decide on the start and angle of the circular movement. Okay, let's choose linear type. And the options are slightly different, this time we have also show and hide. We can decide on count. We have this position section. We can position on X, Y, and the Z. X, Y, and Z. But we don't have a radius field. Okay, and let me talk about the grid type. And one thing you should notice, we can here increase or decrease the distance. Again, sorry, on X, Y, and Z, like so. And we can also decide on the count, like so. Okay. And before we move on to the last type of the cloner component, which is called object, let's talk about what a 3D polygonal model is and what components it consists of. And to demonstrate this, let's create a torus. Torus. Click, Shift, and drag, like so. And let's go to the edit mode of the torus. So a 3D model is a mathematical representation of any three-dimensional object in any 3D software, and it consists of polygons. So polygon, it's a straight side shape which is defined by vertices here vertices and straight lines that connected them. And these lines are called edges. And this interior section of the polygon is called face. So easy. Vertices, edges, and faces. Okay? I repeat it again. A face. It's a flat surface. Here it is. Of a model. This is a face. An edge. Let's choose another color. Yeah, this one. An edge is any point on the surface where two faces meet. Here, here, here is an edge. And a vertex, let me choose orange, okay? It is a point of intersection between three or more edges. And this whole structure is called a polygon. Very simple. And now let's go back to the cloner and let's choose our cube. And let's choose the last type, which is called object type. And object type, let me move it a little bit. And object type can create more advanced result where clones can be aligned along the surface of another object. So what is important here for us is this field, which is called toObject, and it allows us to select the reference object on which the clones will be created. And in this scene, we have only torus and cube. So we have only one option, which is torus. Let's choose torus. Okay. And you see that the clones were selected on the torus. And let's explore some of the properties here. For example, count. We can decide the number of clones to be created. And the number of clones can be defined via percentage from 0 to 100. So it's important to understand that this number, it's not exact number of your clones. It's just a percentage from 0 to 100. Okay. And then we have this field, which is called spread. And we have also different options here, random, like right now. Then polygon center, edge, and vertex. Polygon center, again, reduce the count. We can actually scale the cube, and let's go, for example, to edges, and you see that clones are also scaled, and we can choose vertices. And that's all that I have for you about the cloners. Okay, and now it's time to talk about lighting. Let's start with a new scene. Wait a little. And we can actually use this this rectangle, but let's make it bigger. I can scale it with Shift button, or like so. Then let's create a sphere. and right mouse button to reset transform and position it like so. And we also want to create a cube. Right mouse button, right mouse button, reset transform, position it. Okay, and let's move the plane. So, and reset camera. Okay, by default, any new scene on Spline already includes directional light. This is a directional light. We can see it here, directional light, and an ambient light. And that sets the default lighting for any objects. And the properties for ambient light can be found on the environment panel of the right sidebar. I usually don't change the environment light as it works pretty well with the default settings, but let's explore its options. We can, first of all, we can turn ambient on and off. Okay, change the color of the light. Okay. And we can also decide on intensity of the light. Good. We can toggle between soft shadows and normal shadows. Okay, soft shadows and normal shadows, and so you see the shadows are different when I switch between them. And the detail property is set to low faster by default, which means that it's faster but also more noisy. You can change it to normal or to high slower to get smoother result. Let's go back to the default settings. And to create a custom light, like this directional light, for example, we should go and press the plus icon on the toolbar, and then choose between one of these available lights: point light, directional light, or spotlight. And of course, each light contains both shared and unique properties. So let's explore them. We will start with directional light. Let me delete this directional light. Okay. And let's create a new one and position it. Good. Let me explain how directional light works. It's quite simple. It's based on the directional angle between the position of the light. Here's the position of the light, and the origin of the coordinate system. You see? Okay. And the line traced between these 2 points defines the direction. So, in other words, directional lighting assumes the light coming uniformly from one direction. We can position it as we wish. And we, of course, can also adjust some light properties. And let's see what properties it has. And as you can see, it has 2 new properties like blur and penumbra. So blur controls the general blurriness of the shadows. Okay. And penumbra controls the blurriness of the shadow across the distance So the higher it is, the more blurry the shadow gets. And let me demonstrate this to you. Let's make blue parameter 0. Okay. And let's make a penumbra parameter, let's say 3. Good. Now, if we move the plane, we can see how the shadows change. Yeah, they become sharper as we move the plane closer to the object. Okay, like so. And now let's set the penumbra parameter to 0 and blurriness parameter, to 10. And even when we move the plane, the blur of the shadows doesn't change. So that is the difference. Okay. And now let's delete the directional light. And let's create a point light. Good. And what is new here is the decay parameter. And with this parameter, we can control how the light's brightness decays. Let me change the distance. Okay, like so. So point lights can be useful to represent the emission of light from lamps or cars or traffic lights and much more. Let's delete the point light and let's create a spotlight. Good. And let me rotate the plane and position it like so, and maybe scale it a little. And I don't want grids to be visible. Okay, good. And let's select the spotlight. And let's talk about it. Spotlights, as you can see, cone-based lights, and actually they are also often used to simulate artificial lighting from objects such as lamp or street lights. And let's explore the parameters of the spotlight. Actually, we've already seen some of them. But let's take a closer look at the distance, and it is self-explanatory. It controls the distance of the light from its target. Okay. In other words, how far it illuminates the surface. You see? Okay, good. And then the angle parameter, and it sets the cone angle of the spotlight, like so. I believe it is set in degrees, and outside this cone no light will be emitted. And that's it for these two parameters. And let's go to the H blue parameter. And H blue parameter, it controls the rate at which light intensity decreases from the center to the edge of the spotlight. Okay, and that's all I've got for the lighting, and I hope you get the idea. And We will come back to the lighting later in the course. But like. Okay, in this chapter, we are going to take a closer look at creating basic materials. I created a new file and a few objects, and let's select a cylinder, and we can see the material settings right here. In Spline, materials are layered base, and it means we can have several types of material on top of each other. And this system is similar to the layer system in Photoshop. Let's go ahead and cover some of the material settings here. By default, there are two layers. One is going to control the lighting and the shading method, and the other is going to control the base color, lighting and color. By default, the lighting layer is set to phone, but as you can see, we have 4 different types of lighting. We can choose a Lambert, yeah, and it is more matte and without shining highlights, and is good to create for such objects as concrete or maybe sand. Then we have foam, and if we choose it, it adds more specular reflection and is actually good to use for such object as plastic or maybe even skin. And then we have a physical type. And physical type is very similar to foam, but with more controls such as roughness, metalness, and reflectivity, and we can use it for creating such materials as metal or ceramic. And lastly, we have toon type for cartoonish effect, and you see it's interacting with the default lighting in real time, and this looks really nice. Let me change the background color, make it a little bit lighter. Okay, and if we go back to the library, we can find some very cartoonish and 2D looking scenes. So let's try to recreate this effect, and I'm going back to my scene. And let's take a closer look at the color layer. Okay, the color layer is very straightforward. You can choose a color, or you can also change the opacity of the material. Let's choose, I don't know, a bluish color, something like that. Okay, and let's explore some other options that we have here. And if we click on this icon next to the color, we see that we have more layer types to choose from. Okay, so let's create a new layer by pressing this plus icon. And let's choose the outline layer. Okay, the outline layer can be used to simulate hand drawing style in your models. And if we click on this icon, we can find some parameters that we can adjust, such as the color of the outline. Okay. And the width of the outline. You can also change the smoothness of the lines and set the outline to be only inside, like so, or both inside and outside, inside and outside of your object. But what happens if we, for example, move the outline layer below the color layer? Let's do this. Okay, and as you can see, it disappears, and this means that the order of the layers is important, just like in Photoshop. So let me move the outline layer above the color layer. So once we are happy with the material, we can save and use it for other objects as well. And we can actually create material assets that we can apply to multiple objects. So let's go ahead and do that. And with the object selected, I'm going to click this icon with 4 dots. And it's going to bring up the empty material area. And here we have our material assets. And if we click this plus sign, let's do it. That's going to convert our material to an asset that we can apply it to other objects as well. With double click, we can rename the material, and for this one, I will name it toon. Okay. And if we click on this gear icon, we can see all those material properties that can be changed: outline, lighting, and color. And we can also see it here on the material assets globally. Material assets globally, toon shader, yeah. And the great part about this is we can now assign this material to any object in the scene, just like so. And another way to assign it is to select an object, click on the icon with 4 dots, and click on that material and apply that material to whatever object we want. So this is a great way to be able to apply one material to multiple objects. And if we want to adjust that material, and let's say we want to change color, we can do that, and yeah, we can do that easily. Yeah, and you see that all objects are updating simultaneously. But what if we want to change the material properties of a single object, such as this sphere, for example? Actually, we can do that, and all we need is to click to choose a sphere first, and then to click on this little icon to detach the material. And now we have the ability to change material properties specifically to the sphere. We can change color, for example, and make it red. So that was an introduction for the material section. We will come back to material creation later in the course, and I will teach you how to create more advanced materials like glass, metal, or even skin.